Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back. Our guest today is the one and only Lynette Zang. She is the founder and CEO of Zang Enterprises. And of course, she is a legend in the precious metals industry. Welcome back, Lynette.
I'm very happy to be here, Ivan. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming down. It's such a huge pleasure. I wanted to get you down to talk about all this excitement that's happening in precious metals, gold, silver, platinum as well. What's happening right now, Lynette, in the precious metal space? Does it worry you a little bit that gold is moving this much?
Actually, it doesn't worry me at all that gold is moving this much. I mean, this is an everything bubble. So everything technically is overvalued. And so you can expect corrections or what have you. But really, what's happening is the loss of confidence in the dollar. And that's been a long time in coming. And it looks like the globe is really figuring this out with all the chaos. And so, what is gold? It is the ultimate flight to safety asset because it's the only financial asset that runs no counterparty risk. And there's tons and tons of counterparty risk out there.
And I've had guests on recently, and they said, "Oh, gold is moving because of this, because of that, because geopolitical issues." But you look now, there's a lot of geopolitical issues that are, coming to fold, like that is, they're like peace. You see peace in Israel, somewhat agreements being made, but gold is still moving up. So I think you're actually absolutely spot on. I think gold is sniffing out, just the incredible just the massive debt that bubble that we're in, and when does it reach the peak? Does it are we going to hit $5,000 gold? Does it even matter what price of gold is in U.S. terms, in U.S. dollar terms?
No, it really doesn't matter. And the only reason why I pay attention to it, number one, technically, so I can see where we are in the trend cycle. But the reality is no matter what it is that you're looking at it, you have to know what the true fundamental value is, not the intrinsic value that Wall Street wants you to believe, but what is its true value? Because that is the only way for you to know with any asset if it's undervalued, fairly valued, or overvalued. Therefore, do I want to buy it? Do I want to hold it? Do I want to liquidate it? And I can tell you for an absolute fact, were they to do the overnight revaluation of gold today at a 1-to-1 ratio, it'd be somewhere near $40,000. So does it really matter when we hit 5,000 or 10,000 or 30,000? And oh, by the way, if we were to hit 40,000 tonight, because the more of the money printing that they do, the higher that number goes. But if we were to hit indeed 40,000 tonight, is that the time to liquidate back into this garbage?
No.
No. One of the things, Ivan, that's been so shocking to me recently, especially since I got back from my travels recently, is all this talk on the devaluation trade out in the open. What does that mean? That means that the central bankers are going full bore to devalue and debase their currencies to zero.
Wow.
Full bore. And Wall Street's going, woohoo! But I'm thinking Main Street is not going woohoo.
Right. And I don't know if you've heard, Lynette, but recently, as of last week, Morgan Stanley came out and they're changing their perspective. And yeah, they're telling their clients, hey, instead of the 60-40 model, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, they're now telling their clients 60% stocks, 20% gold, and 20% bonds. So they're actually telling their clients sell bonds and get into gold. How big of a move is this, Lynette?
Well, I think the move has just begun because remember, too, we are resetting into a brand new system. And when President Trump, this is another thing that I think is critical for people to be paying attention to and aware of. When President Trump recently signed the Genius Act, he actually changed the global monetary system. And I believe that this is what those stable coins will be, what ushers in the visible hyperinflation. because for years, and you and I have had this conversation in the past, where he said, well, I've been trying to figure out what is going to justify creation of the new system. And everything that I had read had been debt, which means they have to hyperinflate away the debt, so they repay that debt with with dollars that have no value. So they've got a clean balance sheet to start growing debt again, and or purchases. And so when President Trump signed the Genius Act, he answered that question, which it's both. Because now we're going to have this huge fragmented market of stable coins, because corporations are going to be like Amazon, for example. Private corporations are going to be issuing their own stable coins, Amazon, Walmart, Kmart, et cetera. There are no limitations on how many can issue their stable coins. And so you're going to use dollars to buy these stable coins, and then Amazon or whoever is issuing that you bought those stable coins from will turn around and buy treasury debt.
Wow.
So it's purchases. And I got a question in the live that I do every Tuesday, and the question was about, oh my God, it just went out of my head. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Let's see. No, it wasn't talk me down from crypto, but that was another question. But it was on the stable coins, and how are they going to manage that? Because China's coming out with its own stable coin backed by yuan. Right now, the US dollar is the most, well, I think like 97% of the market of stable coins. And those are on a global basis. But, you use AI to encourage shopping. And so that was the question. Somebody asked me about universal basic income.
Right.
Well, let me tell you, when people have to take out loans to buy groceries and prices continue to go up through inflation, through that lovely debasement trade, okay, I don't know. What do you think? You think that we're going to have to get a shot in the arm, not just in the US, but globally, for the public to continue to shop, to usher in that hyperinflationary event and enable the governments to take on even more debt when that debt is already unpayable? I mean, can you see the crisis ahead of us?
Yeah. Hello, my fellow silver and gold stackers. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It will really help the silver and gold community grow. It'll help this channel grow, and I'd really appreciate it. Back to the video. Like I've even seen Bill Gates and other billionaires and other people that are higher up there saying, in the next 5 to 10 years, if you don't have, like a digital ID or a digital kind of bank account, like some type of mark, a digital mark, you're not going to be involved in society. How dangerous is that too? Like, let's say a gold stacker or a silver stacker has all this gold and all this silver, but if you don't have a digital mark, you can't even purchase anything in the future in society. So, does that make gold more valuable, or what happens to your precious metals in a society where you can't even trade precious metals for a digital asset?
Well, for one thing, Ivan, I would have to ask you, why would you accept that?
Right.
My biggest battle that I'm fighting is getting redeemable gold back in the monetary system again. Because if we do not, what you just talked about, that's what the elites have in mind for us. But there are 8.4 billion people in this world. If we can get 3% of that 8.4 billion, there are way more of us than there are of them. And this is why I do all the traveling that I do, and speaking about sound money and the whole bunch of programs that we're working on, because right now we have a choice. And most people would think, well, what can I do? I mean, who am I? I'm like nobody. And you're right. One person, there's no way that you can fight this machine. And maybe I'm out of my mind, right? Because when a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generations, the truth will seem outrageous. and the speaker a raving lunatic. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to be a raving lunatic, but I'm also happy to go out there and say it is time for the public to take their power back, or what you just talked about, you got to have a digital ID or you won't be able to buy anything. That will happen for us. But the other part of your question, so does that make gold and silver more or less important? That's what they want.
Yeah.
But gold and silver as money is in our DNA. And this rush to gold, this rush to silver is an indication of that, because it's not just the central banks that are accumulating. And I'd also like to point out, because what's happening in the silver market right now, obviously with the short squeeze, that's what I think we have ahead shortly in the gold market, and particularly at the Bank of England, because the beginning of this year, a lot of physical gold and silver were shipped over from Europe, and gold particularly from the Bank of England, who it's not their gold they're sending over. Whose gold is it? The gold that they hold for the other central banks? And what happens when they go to repatriate, those global central banks say, I want my gold back. Their stores of gold. I was just in the Bank of England's website a couple days ago, and the level of gold that they're holding now for others, because they don't really have very much of their own, is significantly lower than it was in January.
Right.
So, when you sell a whole bunch of gold and silver, these derivative contracts, that's all they are. They're not real physical gold and silver. There's an infinite amount of those derivative contracts, and we're seeing that trade blow up right now in silver. And I think that short squeeze is what lies ahead in gold. And, we're surrounded by these zombies. When you can create as much of what appears to be an asset like gold and silver that does not nor ever will exist, you got to count on nobody taking delivery. But that ship has sailed. They already started that last January, and it's not over yet.
There's about $15 trillion worth of physical gold in the world sitting there costing money rather than being used. Is just absolutely insane. Monetary Metals is bringing gold back into the financial world, putting gold to productive use right now. The problem with gold, of course, in physical form is that it's heavy, it's cumbersome, it's not particularly easy to ship, and it costs money to store in a protected manner. This platform Monetary Metals created is a proven concept and allows gold to be put to productive use, so that instead of sitting there costing you money, it's actually in use earning you money.
Learn how you can earn 2 to 5% in our leasing program, and how accredited investors can earn up to 12% on silver paid in silver. This advertisement is not investment or financial advice. Minimum investment applies.
What happens as a country? Let's put an example as myself. I'm country A. Country B is holding my gold. I demand all my gold back, and they don't have the gold, or they don't have the means to transfer that gold, or they've sold it, or they've leased it out, or whatever, like the talks about at Fort Knox. What does my country do in that event, Lynette? What would a country do? Because that would be the ultimate short squeeze for gold.
Exactly. Well, what the Bank of England is likely to do, which, by the way, we have seen this recently, I think as early as 2018, where a lot of the banks, including the German central bank or Germany, asked for their gold back. And they were told, okay, we'll give it back to you, but it's going to take us 6 years.
Oh, wow.
So, because here's the reality, and this is also why having gold and silver in your possession is so important. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And we are seeing, particularly in Russia, China, and India, where, they are buying gold hand over fist. And the reality is according to all the reports, none of the central banks are actually really reporting how much gold they're accumulating. They'll report a little bit to how much they're really accumulating, but they're not. China, India, and Russia, they're not sending it to New York or London anymore. They are keeping it on their shores for exactly that reason.
Yeah. Now, I know you've heard this before, but just to talk about it, because you brought it up earlier about, when you have to take out a loan or when you have to finance the food or groceries you're buying. But, recently Costco came out and you can now finance like a hot dog, or you can finance something as low as like a hot dog for $1.50, but you can finance it. How what does that tell the world, and what does that say to the youth when you can go out and finance a hot dog? And kids these days, of course, the youth maybe don't know about silver and gold, and there's so many kids out there who are into cryptos instead of actually a hard asset like precious metals. What type of guidance would you give them, Lynette? Because it's such a crazy world when you can finance a hot dog.
It is definitely an indication of how far down we are. And really, what that tells, number one, I am seeing a rise in the younger people that are accumulating gold and silver. So they are not just going to cryptos. And I would also say, do whatever you're comfortable doing, but make sure you're properly diversified. So that if you are in cryptos, which is an absolutely intangible asset, that the physical representation is gold, silver, and platinum typically, and these representations are supposed to make you think that it's as good as gold, because this is an ounce of gold and this is an image of Ethereum, right? That you need to properly diversify with a hard, tangible asset. And I would say that's true for everybody or anybody that has intangible wealth in these markets, that you can only convert to this garbage, right? If you can only convert it into the government's fiat debt-based money, guess what? All you own is debt, and that debt is being blown up right now. So I am definitely seeing a huge movement. Again, at my live yesterday, there was a 21-year-old that came in, and he's been stacking gold and silver, and he had some great questions. And that's not unusual. I have somebody that comes to those events pretty much every week, and he's 16 years old. My
Wow.
grandson is 12, and I just recently got back from doing the Nomad Capitalist show in Malaysia, and then we went to Cambodia after that. And of course, I got him some gifts, and one of which was a beautiful silver coin. And I saw his face light up.
Yeah.
He had other things too, and he liked them. But when he saw the silver, his face just lit up. So this is what really gives me a lot of hope, because it's not the old people like me. We're going to lead the way because we have the past experience. I was
Right.
born in 54. So I remember when silver was taken out of our money. And I also remember when Nixon took the US off the gold standard completely in 71. And so having lived through the chaos of the Vietnam War and everything that happened there, and civil rights and women's lib and the oil embargo and the shift from the US backing the currency, or almost, the rise of the SDR and the petrodollar, right?
Right.
Which created that artificial market for dollars, and that's exactly what the stable coins are supposed to do. Create another artificial market for this garbage. And quite honestly, all of this is leading to a huge hyperinflationary depression that will justify bringing in the next system, which is why I say this is the best time I have ever seen to get redeemable gold back in the system again. We have a choice. We have to come together and say, no, that full surveillance economy where if we don't do what you want, you can cut us out. That is even more important today, to have physical gold and silver in your possession, than it's ever been, because this is your vote. You vote with your wallet.
Absolutely, Lynette, you nailed it. Is there a possibility, like I know in the past in the US they've outlawed gold, or they made it illegal for you to even whether it's own it or purchase things with it back in the past. Is there a possibility again in the future where, let's say, if we're moving to a full digital society, you need a digital ID to buy anything, and then let's say the next president or the next couple of presidents down the line say, you know what, it's time to outlaw gold. Is that a possibility? And what do people with precious metals do then when it's outlawed?
Well, that is not just a possibility, but potentially a high probability, since there is absolute three times historic precedence in the US for such a move. And I could easily see that again, because while we had the talk between President Trump and Elon Musk of going in and auditing Fort Knox, then it got real quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means that in order to really compete, and in Canada, you have no gold left
Yeah, there's
either,
nothing.
right? This is bad. So I do think we could easily see an overt confiscation. But again, because I'm as old as I am, 71 today, born in 54, and I had my Uncle Al, that was a major antique dealer. And when you could only own 5 ounces of gold,
Wow.
he had at least 3,000 ounces between these two tall floor safes in the only form that you could hold it by. I'd say jewelry, again, is another form to do it, but this is just a much less expensive way because the markup isn't the same. It's
Right.
markup on jewelry is huge.
Yeah, it's
Not
massive.
as much on coins. But this is why I personally, everybody's got to do what they're comfortable doing, but I personally only buy collectible coins. This is a raw one. This I use for my savings. This is a slabbed one, which I use for asset protection and growth. But he was sitting on 3,000 ounces that he could use in the normal marketplace. And I don't know how they could possibly get away completely. Like in 33, there were a lot of industries that used gold. I mean, the
Right.
dental industry, manufacturing, the financials, art, jewelry, on and on and on. Well, that hasn't changed. In fact, they have never figured out how to duplicate the attributes of gold and silver in a lab. They
Right.
learned how to make diamonds, but not gold and silver and what these two qualities possess.
Right.
So this is the piece that I think everybody needs to understand. Yeah, they can confiscate and probably will the monetary gold. And they'll make you think you're volunteering it like they did in 33. But the collectible gold is in a different category. And the way that you know this is you go into the IRS and you see what you can hold inside of an IRA. And if you can hold it inside of an IRA, don't touch it.
Yeah.
But these have a different classification. Even the raw pieces, they are classified with special qualities. And you can see a slabbed super rare coin go for $18-20 million.
Wow.
And so the person that can spend $18 million on 1 ounce of gold is more than likely to either write the laws like Treasury Secretary Wooten did back in 33 and wrote it to his and his friends' benefits, or have the ability to influence those that write the laws. Because what they're going to want is they're going to want you to volunteer. And so this is what I think it's going to look like. They will, let's say, spots at $6,000 when they decide to do an overt confiscation, because price manipulation, inflation, taxation is all forms of confiscation.
Right.
Just a different name. Okay. So spots at 6,000, they say it's your patriotic duty. We really need it to stand up in the global society, financial markets.
Right.
And because we're so fabulous, we're going to pay you $9,000 an ounce. Well, most people believing Wall Street, I don't know why they do. You're constantly lied to, but okay. Believing Wall Street, most people would go, well, gee, it's only worth 6,000 an ounce, but they're willing to pay me 9,000, and they would do this huge sweep of IRAs, since in this country, that's where most people hold gold, is inside of an IRA. And who's going to complain? And they'd probably get a lot of people to turn in their gold.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And then once they got as much gold as they think they're going to get, then they do that overnight revaluation. This, something that has no intrinsic value, I'll use dollars here, something that has no intrinsic value against gold that is all intrinsic value used in one place. So as we're seeing in the market correction right now in cryptocurrencies and things like that, if you only have one base of buyer, you got a problem if that buyer goes away. But gold and silver, since they're used in every single sector of the global market, even in 33, there was oversight, but if you were a dentist, you could still get gold. If you were a jeweler, etc.
Yeah.
So gold and silver have the broadest base of functionality and the broadest base of buyer because they are used in every single sector of the global economy. So I think the key in that and a level of protection comes from going into the collectibles and all the different levels. It's like your wealth insurance, the little premium that you pay and understanding what the true fundamental value of an ounce of gold is. That's your guide. That's your guide.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic because even I didn't know that the collectibles are do that. So the benefits for that is really nice. That's incredible for anyone watching this, to have that guidance and to have that advice. Lynette, I want to thank you so much for coming down and speaking to the silver and gold community. It is your birthday, so I want to say happy birthday to you. Everyone watching this, please say happy birthday to Lynette. And where can they follow your work? I'm going to put your links in the description below. Where can they follow you?
Well, I'm on YouTube and Twitter at the Lynette Zang and Instagram and Facebook at Lynette Zang. And of course, our website is LynetteZang.com. And I would like everybody to know these were not my choices. But it is what it is. I am known out there in the community. So thank you so much for having me on, Ivan. This has been a great birthday so far.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming down. It's such a breath of fresh air having you down and speaking to the community. But as the market develops, and I'm sure there's going to be a really incredible news coming soon for precious metals, I'd really love to have you back on.
Anytime at all. It's my pleasure.
Thanks so much, Lynette. Talk to you soon.